As with most things in life, the best products take what seems a complicated bunch of requirements and reduce them to something very simple and elegant. Take this car, the improved Volvo V40. The Swedish brand has a history of building premium compact models that dates all the way back to their PV51 model of 1936, and in this case they've rejuvenated what has become a very strong contender in this segment thanks to the installation of powerfully efficient Drive-E engine technology.
Here is the car that has turned around Volvo's fortunes in the modern era, the V40. Now you may think you already know it. This premium hatch has, after all, been around since 2012. It's quite likely, though, that you don't, given that only quite recently have all the engines on offer been Volvo's own. This change into what the brand calls its Drive-E technology has revitalised this car's performance and efficiency proposition. To remind buyers of this fact, Volvo facelifted the V40 in 2016, creating the model that we're going to look at here. Prior to its original introduction, this car's lineage was unremarkable. Through the 340, 360 models of the late 70s, the 440, 460 series of the late 80s, and even the two generations of S40 Saloon that more recently followed them, compact Volvo models have sold steadily to virtuous Volvo people, but not really to anyone else. The brand's Chinese owners, Zhejiang Geely, who took over from Ford in 2010, needed more. A range of future models that kept the old qualities but redefined them in a more dynamic, interesting, lifestyle-orientated and forward-thinking way. This V40 was the first of these and remains without doubt the most important. Despite the V designation, traditionally used by the brand to reference estate cars, this is a Focus-sized family hatch, but a rather posh one, aimed at the top end of this segment, where you'll find premium models like BMW's 1 Series, Audi's A3 and the Mercedes A-Class. Its job is to take on these elite rivals and play a major part in doubling the company's worldwide sales by 2020. Hence the major engine investment we referred to at the beginning, based around new generation 2-litre petrol and diesel Drive-E units that offer a huge step forward in performance and efficiency over the ageing Ford-derived power plants they replace. The first signs of this arrived in 2014 with the arrival for V40 buyers of a diesel D4 variant that gave us a taste of what was to come. Here is a car that could sprint to 62 miles an hour in less than 7.5 seconds, yet could return a combined cycle average of nearly 75 miles per gallon, with CO2 returns below 100 grams per kilometre. In this more recent facelifted lineup, it's been joined by other Drive-E derivatives, offering an even greater emphasis on frugality, notably a D2 model capable of nearly 80 miles per gallon and CO2 emissions as low as 94 grams per kilometre. And it's figures like these that have got this car's German rivals worried. Can the complete package give them cause to be? Let's find out. As a car maker, if you turn up in the segment for premium compact hatch models, then you'll need to come ready with a pretty dynamic drive package, given the opposition of the quality of BMW's 1 Series and the Mercedes A-Class. Now, in that regard, if you've done a little homework on this V40 before your test drive, then you might find yourself approaching a drive in it with something of a conflict of emotions. Let's be honest, dynamic handling isn't ordinarily something you'd expect from a Volvo. Yet, this one sits on a platform shared with the best handling family hatchback on the planet, Ford's Focus. But then, not so long ago, we were told that about the brand's smaller and surprisingly stodgy C30 Coupe. This car has to do better. And it does. Here is a hatch clearly created by people who care about driving. 4 people, in fact, in a dynamic chassis team that, for the early development phase of this model, included a Swedish rally driver and a guy used to racing a Mazda MX-5 around at weekends. They pounded around awful British roads for thousands of miles until they were satisfied that this car could match or beat the best in its class, even with a standard dynamic spec chassis that's fitted to all but entry-level petrol and diesel models. This gives what we reckon to be a very decent compromise of absorbent absorbent ride and assured handling composure. You can, of course, always spoil it if you want to by opting for a sports chassis that offers firmer springs and dampers and lowers the ride height by at least 10mm, which also lowers the centre of gravity. Not quite so good is the steering. It's not an especially feelsome setup, although it is precise and easy to use at parking speeds. Don't be tempted to pay extra for the optional 3-mode EPAS, electric power assisted steering system, to try and improve it. With this supposedly enhanced setup, you can vary response between finger light and glutinously heavy, but you'll mostly end up leaving it in the medium mode that the engineers reckon was best in the first place. A better feature is the standard corner traction control system that brakes the inner driven wheel in tight bends, transferring power to the outer wheel and allowing you to fire the car from corner to corner in a way that you just wouldn't expect yourself to be able to do in a Volvo. All of this is just as it was when we first saw this car back in 2012. What's changed, though, is what lies under the bonnet. Virtually all models now get the 2-litre petrol and diesel Drive-E engines that the Gothenburg brand has been animatedly telling us about for quite a long time now. Most will want one of the diesels, and there are three. This 120 brake horsepower D2, the 150 bhp D3, and the 190 bhp D4. For most, this entry-level D2 variant will be sufficient, capable of 62 miles an hour from rest in 10.5 seconds en route to 118 miles an hour. If you want a little more pulling power, then the mid-range D3 improves those figures to 8.4 seconds and 130 miles an hour, while the top D4, although just as efficient, manages 7.4 seconds and 143 miles an hour. If you prefer the idea of petrol power, then again there's a three-way choice of units. The 122 brake horsepower T2, the 152 bhp T3, or the rare 245 bhp T5. Again, the entry-level variant will be sufficient for most. That T2 capable of 62 miles an hour from rest in 9.8 seconds en route to 118 miles an hour, a touch behind the mid-range T3 model that improves those figures to 8.3 seconds and 130 miles an hour. In the top T5, you'll manage 7.4 seconds and 143 miles an hour in the two-wheel drive models, or 6.1 seconds and 130 miles an hour in the cross-country all-wheel drive variant. There's no ride height increase for the 4x4 cross-country variant, so light field tracks will be about its limit when it comes to off-road excursions. If you want to pay extra for automatic transmission, then you'll find it's a 6-speed unit on the two lower-order petrol and diesel variants, but at the top of the range, a more sophisticated paddle-shift 8-speed box is standard on the T5 and optional on the D4. And while we're dealing with product semantics, I'll tell you that the T2 and T3 petrol models use a 2-litre engine with manual transmission and an identically performing 1.5-litre unit if specified with an auto box. Who knows why? Ultimately, whichever engine and gearbox combination you choose, you'll get a reasonably rewarding package. No, it won't deliver to you the ultimate in driver feedback, but the setup's certainly confidence-inspiring, delivering all the sure-footed security you'd expect from a Volvo. The safer a car is, the safer will be its approach to exterior design. Well, that was once true of small Volvos, but it isn't anymore. In fact, it's precisely because this V40 is good in an accident that it looks so smart. Well, we'll explain. Almost all cars have a relatively high bonnet line so as to have an underbonnet void to meet pedestrian impact legislation. But thanks to a unique underbonnet airbag, this car doesn't need to allow for that, so its bonnet line can be much lower, part of a lean, wide, coupe-like stance in a shape very slightly longer and wider than rival BMW 1 Series or Audi A3 models. But one with plenty of cues to Volvo heritage. You'll find some of these in the broad-shouldered look that references the Amazon models of the 50s, and others in the V-shaped bonnet, enhanced on this facelifted V40 by standard-fit blade design headlights fashioned in the Thor's hammer style, lately established by the brand's more recent larger models. These also come complete with the kind of full LED technology that would normally be offered at extra cost in this segment. The low, wide, high-gloss front grille has been restyled too, positioned above a lower opening that's surrounded by sculpted bodywork that aims to create a sporty, close-to-the-ground feel. In profile, the wedge-shaped silhouette and lean-forward stance draws your attention, with this strong shoulder line flowing from the headlamps right back into the powerful rear haunches. This lower crease flows gently upwards from the front wheel arch and gives the flanks some shape. In short, it's a design that still looks very current. American stylist Chris Benjamin calls it a 3D piece of art you can drive. Here we've got the cross-country variant. It's more outdoorsy look, delivered courtesy of silver roof rails, side scuff plates and glossy black door mirrors. Move to the back and you're reminded again of that Volvo heritage in the use of this hexagonal tailgate, like the one we first saw on the classic P1800ES Coupe that Roger Moore drove on TV in the Saint back in the 60s. It's flanked by these curvaceous rear shoulder tail lights and further set off by a standard roof spoiler with this shark fin antenna just above it. In short, it's all pleasantly different, an observation equally applicable here in the cabin. Now, the inside of this car needs to be good if sales are to be stolen from the likes of the Mercedes A-Class and the Audi A3. It's a tough assignment tackled with an unpretentious, designed-around-you philosophy. The idea is that, like IKEA furniture, this cabin should be typically Scandinavian, comfortable, simple, intuitive and visually pleasing. And broadly speaking, it is. Yes, the storage on offer could be better. It's certainly better by some rivals. The door bins are tiny, for example. Some of the stalks could be a bit more substantial, and this trademark floating centre console has rather too many small buttons on it. These details apart, though, the overall effect is pretty successful, and there are some lovely standard touches like this frameless rear-view mirror. Future generation V40s will better the presentation of the infotainment provision on offer, of course. I mean, even if you pay extra for this Sensors Connect navigation setup with its larger 7-inch screen, the display is one of the smaller ones in the segment. On the plus side, though, it is positioned high up, so once you've figured out its, well, rather complicated menus, you can easily deal with audio, navigation, phone and other functions almost without taking your eyes off the road. The setup is impressively media savvy too. It incorporates an embedded 3G modem, so you can create a Wi-Fi hotspot in the car. Bluetooth audio streaming also opens up a world of potential entertainment. So, for example, through the TuneIn app, you'll be able to access over 100,000 global radio stations, and through the Stitcher app, get on-demand radio shows and podcasts. The sensor system also offers voice recognition, a text-to-speech function, and a range of other features that will enable you to do things like find and pay for parking, use Wikipedia for local points of interest information, or discover new restaurants at any journey destination. Anything this monitor can't tell you will be covered in the instrument binnacle display. And very smartly too, if your V40 has this active TFT crystal driver's information display that's standard on both variants. With a flick of a switch, you can choose between 3 different dial layouts. A green backlit eco setting to help you drive more economically, a red backlit performance mode to better suit spirited driving, and the more usual amber backlit elegance setting for more comfort-orientated day-to-day motoring. We'd also want to tick the box for the lovely theatre lighting, which can be adjusted through 7 mood themes from red to blue. You can get carried away with things like that and forget more crucial considerations. The seats, for example. It's remarkable how little importance we attach to the things we'll be sitting on in our cars, given that we'll be spending many hundreds or thousands of hours in the things. And down the years, Volvo has quietly earned a reputation for making the comfiest chairs in the business. Now, this V40 continues that form line with what have to be the most supportive yet wonderfully pillowy seats in the family hatch sector. Courtesy of a curve on the door sill, access into the back isn't quite as easy as it is with some rivals. Once you are inside, leg, shoulder and knee room are really quite good for 2 adults, courtesy of the way that the seats have been angled slightly inwards to give rear seat occupants more space and a better view forward. Mind you, that doesn't do much for the centre part of the rear bench. That's a place that you really won't want to be confined for any distance. Still, there isn't any contender in this segment able to comfortably seat 3 fully sized adults across the back over long distances. Headroom is fine, provided you haven't specified the large panoramic glass roof. And luggage room. Well, the boot is one of the smaller ones in the sector, with 335 litres on offer in diesel models and 324 litres in the petrol variant. And no, we don't know why there's a difference either. Overall, the total space provided is significantly more than you get in a Ford Focus, around about the same as you get in a more comparable Mercedes A-Class, and about 10% less than you get in rivals like Audi's A3 and BMW's 1 Series. Get your items over this rather high loading lip and then stack them up to the roof, and the capacity rises to 402 litres in this diesel variant or 391 litres in the petrol model. It'll also help that you can make very good use of the space available. There are hooks for grocery bags and various optional load nets, load mats and boot organisers to help with that. We'd advise you to specify this optional twin floor arrangement, which makes the floor completely flat when you push forward the 60/40 split folding rear bench, at which point you'll still have concealed storage beneath. With the back seat flat, you'll have 1,032 litres of space to use in this diesel model or 1,021 litres in a petrol variant. Should you regularly need to accommodate something really long, say a surfboard or a bike, you can even specify your car with a fold-forward front passenger seat. Most V40s will be sold in the £20,000 to £25,000 bracket, although at the top of the range it is possible to pay as much as £32,000 for one. There's a single 5-door body shape, but 2 body styles, the standard one and this more SUV-like cross-country version, offered at £1,800 model for model premium over the conventional variant. When it comes to engine choice, virtually all buyers opt to find the extra to get diesel rather than petrol power, and there's a premium of around £1,500 for that in mainstream models. All the units on offer are now Volvo's 2-litre Drive E petrol and diesel power plants, so we'll talk you through them. Go diesel, and the range starts with this 120 brake horsepower D2, rising through the 150 bhp D3 to the 190 bhp D4. If you prefer petrol, the range begins with a 122 bhp T2, rising through the 152 bhp T3 to the 245 bhp T5. And that's the variant that's front-driven with the standard body style, but comes with 4-wheel drive if you specify the cross-country derivative. Now, curiously, the T2 and T3 derivatives get 2-litre engines in manual form, but smaller, although comparably powerful, 1.5-litre units if you order the optional 6-speed automatic gearbox. Across the range on mainstream models, auto transmission comes at a premium of around £1,500. It's a 6-speed unit on the 2 lower-order petrol and diesel variants, but at the top of the range, a more sophisticated paddle shift 8-speed box is standard on the T5 and optional on the D4. So, onto the value proposition that kind of pricing represents. In terms of the mainstream V40 lineup, the figures being asked here are very comparable to those you'd pay for an equivalent Volkswagen Golf. Now, shift your point of comparison and pitch this V40 against, say, a Ford Focus, and the premium for the Volvo would be around £1,500, with greater savings than that available if you were prepared to consider contenders like Vauxhall's Astra and Peugeot's 308 in this segment. These aren't, though, the kinds of competitors that Volvo's really targeting with this car. The brand would prefer to be stealing sales from much posher, so-called premium compact hatches, models like the BMW 1 Series, the Audi A3 and the Mercedes A-Class. Perhaps also Alfa Romeo's Giulietta and cars like the Infiniti Q30 and the Citroën-derived DS4. Now, you might think that to be quite a big ask, given that at first glance this V40's pricing doesn't appear to be really very much different to any of these competitors. Look a little closer, though. If you're considering the lower-order diesel models that most will want, you'll find that only the BMW and the Mercedes can get anywhere near this Volvo's efficiency figures. And equivalent versions of those models would cost you around £1,000 more, with a difference that would widen further if you equipped a 1 Series or an A-Class to V40 standards. Look at mainstream petrol versions of this Volvo, and the difference over equivalent versions of the BMW and the Merc widen to around £2,000, although pricing is closer if your point of comparison lies with other models in the sector. Overall, we'd comment that Volvo's done just about enough to create a decent value proposition here, although it would of course help this Swedish model's cause further if the brand could have given it even more of a significant price advantage in this segment. If you're looking at the cross-country variant like this one, then you'll probably be considering it as an alternative to a small, prestigiously badged crossover, something like an Audi Q3 or a Mercedes GLA. And you're looking at a saving of £3,000 to £4,000 over a comparable version of one of those. A Q3 or a GLA, though, is more of a purpose-designed product. A rival closer in conception to this ruggedised V40 is the Citroën-derived DS4 Crossback, which costs around about the same. If you were looking at the kind of £30,000 budget that you'd need for a high-spec, top D4 diesel-powered V40 cross-country model, another directly comparable rival could be found in Infiniti's QX30. Enough, though, on the opposition. Let's say that you've considered all of this and decided that it is a V40 that you really want. In that case, you're going to need to know just how generous Volvo has been with a standard spec. So, let's see. Even entry-level variants come with alloy wheels of at least 16 inches in size, LED headlights incorporating daytime running lights, power-folding heated mirrors, a rear roof spoiler, an alarm and twin chromed exhaust pipes. Inside there's electronic climate control that also cools the glove box, plus there's leather trim for the gear knob and for a 3-spoke steering wheel that has audio control for an 8-speaker stereo with USB and iPod inputs. And that's operable via the same 5-inch colour screen you can use to set up the Bluetooth connection for your phone. Plus, the little touches should please, like the frameless rear-view mirror, the body colour washer jet nozzles, and the self-closing fuel filler pipe that does away with the need for a fuel filler cap. If you're after a sportier look and feel, then your dealer will want to upgrade you to the popular R-Design trim level. Now, for just over £2,000 or so more, that gets you larger 17-inch alloy wheels and gives entry-level petrol and diesel models a firmer dynamic chassis. There's also a subtly more aggressive look, courtesy of stealth aluminium trim, silver matte finished door mirrors and R-Design treatment for the nose, the front grille, the rear diffuser and for the exhaust pipes. Inside there's sports seats and sports pedals, along with the active TFT crystal driver's information display that allows you to configure your instrument binnacle readouts. Whichever of these two spec levels you go for, it's probably worth finding the extra £850 premium necessary to get the variant you have in mind in Nav Plus guise. Now that will equip your V40 with an integrated navigation system, along with useful extras like cruise control and rear parking sensors. Perhaps more importantly, it'll also provide you with the latest Volvo developments in media connectivity that come packaged up in the brand's Sensus Connect with high-performance sound package. Now this gives you a larger, 7-inch centre dash display screen via which you'll access not only the 3D sat-nav system but also an internet browser and a range of selected web apps. The system has a hard disk drive for music storage, it allows for voice activation, delivers a useful traffic message channel and can play DVDs. At the top of the V40 range, the two flagship trim levels are Inscription and R-Design Pro. Both, as you would expect, include the various Nav Plus features as standard, along with full leather upholstery, rain-sensing wipers, a folding forward front passenger seat, and that configurable instrument cluster. Inscription buyers also get nice touches like in the interior lighting package, 17-inch Sarpass alloy wheels and milled aluminium trim. With R-Design Pro models, the extra touches focus on providing a slightly more dynamic look, hence the larger 18-inch wheels and the rear privacy glass. All our comments so far apply to the standard V40 body shape. Now, if you're minded to pay a little extra for this rugged cross-country body style, there's a simpler trim choice, Standard Cross-Country or Cross-Country Pro. Both, of course, get the exterior changes that make this variant what it is. Things like silver roof rails, side scuff plates, front skid plate, gloss black mirrors and specially styled front and rear bumper sections. You'll need pricier Cross-Country Pro trim, though, for the standard fitment of all those Nav Plus and Sensus infotainment features. Plus, Plus, at Pro level, you also get the luxury touches common to plusher standard models. Things like larger 17-inch alloy wheels and full leather upholstery. On to options. Now, bear in mind that nearly all the niceties we've mentioned in referencing plusher models can also be ordered as individual extras, including all the media stuff, so you might prefer to stick with entry-level momentum trim and pick and choose from the items you really want. Extras worth looking at across the range include a full-length panoramic glass roof and a rear-view camera. And both these things are also included in what the brand calls its Xenium pack, along with electric seats and a park assist pilot system that'll steer you into tight spaces. There's also a winter pack that gives you heated front seats, a heated windscreen, headlamp washers, and if they're not already fitted, rain sensing wipers too. A pricier Winter Plus pack includes all of that, along with active bending headlights that turn with the bends, special interior lighting, and a lovely illuminated gear knob. That last feature can be ordered separately, and it's a real nighttime talking point. What else? Well, if you go for the Sensus Connect package, you can upgrade it to include a thumping 12-speaker Harman Kardon premium sound audio system with clever so-called Dirac Live sound enhancement software for concert hall style quality. You might also want to look at things like an auto-dimming rear view mirror, keyless entry and start, and heated rear seats. Enthusiasts might also want to consider the Sports Pack, which gives you a lowered sports chassis, adjustable steering force, and rear privacy glass. If you go for a D4 or T5 variant, you can also look at an intake and exhaust pack or a firmer chassis pack, which gives you stiffer Polestar branded springs and shock absorbers. On a more practical note, there's a winter accessory pack with snow socks that maximise tyre grip in freezing conditions, mud flaps, rubber floor mats and a reversible cargo compartment mat. Now, that last feature can be ordered separately, while other boot area options include a load organiser, a dog harness, a steel safety grille and a dirt protector. You might also want to look at the optional flexible load floor with a useful grocery bag holder, and maybe even the electric cooler and heater box. There are the usual optional roof boxes, roof rails, cycle carriers and tow bars. And remember too that you'll also have to pay extra for a temporary spare wheel, and that's a better bet than the tyre repair kit, which is all that's offered as standard. On to optional aesthetics. Now, there's the usual choice of metallic colours that here also includes some more exclusive premium shades. And as you expect, a selection of 17, 18 or 19-inch wheels if you don't like the ones supplied as standard. If you want a bit more exterior aggression, but you don't want the cost of stretching to an R design variant, a styling kit for mainstream models will give you rear wheel aero deflectors, a rear bumper diffuser and twin exhaust pipes. Buyers of the top D4 and T5 V40 derivatives can go even further with either a more aggressive styling pack or an even more dynamic Polestar performance pack that includes 19-inch Polestar wheels. Before going too far with any of this, though, make sure you leave a little extra budget aside for the advanced telematics that drive the Volvo on-call system. Here you get an app that allows you to call for help in a breakdown or accident situation. In fact, the system will contact the emergency services automatically if the airbags are triggered, and it'll even help the police locate your car if it's stolen, and it'll allow you to lock or unlock the car with your phone from wherever you are. Very neat. So yes, your V40 can be very well equipped and class-leadingly clever, but it's also got its priorities in the right place too. And with any Volvo, that always means an overriding emphasis on safety. Appropriate from a company that has, since its creation in 1927, prioritised the preservation of its drivers, pioneering everything from the three-point seatbelt to side impact airbags. Today, the Gothenburg goal is that by the year 2020, no one anywhere should die or suffer serious injuries in a new Volvo car. And that's quite a target when you consider that at present, in China alone, around 600 people die on the roads every day. Achievable? Well, you do start to believe in it when you begin to examine the roster of safety kit developed for V40 customers. Now, the safety headline with this car is something you might not have come across before: a pedestrian airbag. Yes, you heard that right. An airbag on this car that looks after passers-by. Now, it's standard on all models and is operable in the 12 to 31 miles an hour speed bracket in which 90% of pedestrian accidents take place. Sitting just beneath the bonnet, it pushes the rear edge of the bonnet up in an impact, cushioning the area beneath and extending that same cushion a third of the way up the windscreen, just where a victim's head might land. Now, this is key to the car's impressive 88% Euro NCAP pedestrian protection test score. And the organisation decided that the V40 was one of the safest cars it had ever tested, awarding this Volvo a 98% rating for adult occupant protection and a full house 100% score for safety assist. How was this all possible? Well, I'll give you some detail on that. More conventional V40 safety features include dual-stage front airbags on both sides, side airbags, a knee bag for the driver and inflatable curtains. There are also Isofix child seat fastenings, a rollover protection system, whips, anti-whiplash head restraints and the SIPS side impact protection setup. Now, to hopefully make sure you never need any of that, there's a DSTC, dynamic stability and traction control, along with the usual ABS braking assistance. Also, there's corner traction control, engine drag control to stop the wheels from locking during engine braking on a slippery surface, and even a trailer stability assist feature if you've fitted a tow bar. Also fitted to all models is a city safety system, and that's there to avoid low-speed urban accidents, courtesy of a radar that scans the road ahead for potential moving or stationary vehicles that you might be in danger of hitting. The setup will warn you if a collision is imminent and can even brake for you at speeds of up to 31 miles an hour. But this being a Volvo, you can of course go a lot further than that. If you've a little more in your budget, then you'll want to pay extra for what the company calls its IntelliSafe Pro Pack, which includes 10 key electronic safety features. So let's talk you through them. That city safety autonomous braking system I just mentioned has, say Volvo, cut accident insurance claims by 28% since it was first fitted to the brand's various models. So what if the effectiveness of that system could be extended so that it also operated at higher speeds and was able to pick up potential hazards from cyclists and pedestrians too? Well, that is exactly what the IntelliSafe Pro Pack's front collision warning with full auto brake and pedestrian and cyclist protection systems can do. They work via a combined camera and radar unit at the top of the windscreen that scans the road ahead as you drive and can pick out people and bikes as well as vehicles. As with CitySafe, the setup can brake for you at urban speeds, but can also brake to reduce the severity of any potential accidents if you're going faster than that too. On to other IntelliSafe Pro Pack features. An upgraded version of Volvo's clever BLIS, blind spot information system, now not only stops you from dangerously pulling out to overtake someone, but also informs you of cars fast approaching from the rear. Plus, thanks to a cross-traffic alert feature, it can warn you of approaching vehicles if you're reversing out of a parking space. Adaptive cruise control will automatically keep you a safe distance from the car in front on the highway, and when cruise control isn't on, a distance alert feature will warn you if you're too close to the car in front. Other IntelliSafe Pack elements include a driver alert control that monitors you as you drive and will alert you if you seem to be drowsy. A road sign information display feature. This will read road signs as you pass them and display them for you on the dash. Active high beam that will automatically dip your headlights for you at night. A lane keeping aid which will alert you if you drift out of lane on the highway. And on automatic models, a queue assist system that you can set up to automatically drive the car in stop-start, very low-speed traffic. By now, then, you've got the idea. If you want the safest car in the family hatchback class, then you're looking at it right here. To give this V40 a real chance to make headway in the premium compact hatch segment, Volvo knew it had to take a class-leading stance on running cost efficiency, hence the considerable effort and investment the brand has expended on its 2-litre Drive E petrol and diesel engine family. A lot of engineering cleverness has gone into this, primarily in the development of an innovative iArt system, which sees an intelligent software chip placed on each engine injector. This carefully monitors the ideal amount of fuel that should be injected in each combustion cycle, and it's able to do so far more accurately than the crude single pressure sensors that competitor power plants use. On top of that, further savings have been achieved through things like the reduction of inner friction in the engine, smart heat management, and the use of a special fuel pump. Competitors really need to take one of these Drive E engines apart and see how it's all been done. They probably have. But does it all work? Well, you decide. The V40 D2 model we're trying here manages 84.1 miles per gallon on the combined cycle, a class-leading figure that only the efficient dynamics version of BMW's pricier 116D model can get anywhere close to. A comparable Mercedes A180D would take you 5 fewer miles on every gallon, while equivalent 1.6-litre TDI versions of the Audi A3 or the Volkswagen Golf would go 10 fewer miles on every gallon. It's an impressive showing that continues with the V40 D2's 89 grams per kilometre CO2 reading. No rival in the segment can better that, and the Audi and VW models I just mentioned are up at 99 grams per kilometre, so they'll cost you more to tax. This Volvo's running cost advantage over its rivals is even more pronounced if you want a diesel engine with a bit more power. Both the 150 bhp D3 and the 190 bhp D4 manage 74.3 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 99 grams per kilometre of CO2. Everything else in the segment costs considerably more to run. There are a few Drive E caveats though. For one thing, mating one of the diesel engines to an automatic gearbox has more of an effect on the figures than you get with some rivals. Get a V40 D2 in automatic form, for example, and the returns take quite a fall to 74.3 miles per gallon and 101 grams per kilometre. And while we're issuing warnings, it's also worth pointing out that the super frugal returns we're mentioning only apply if this V40 isn't fitted with larger 17, 18 or 19-inch wheels. This car's Drive E technology can't claim class-leading status when it comes to petrol power. The T2 and T3 models both return 51.4 miles per gallon on a combined cycle and 127 grams per kilometre of CO2. Yes, that is the same as you get from a comparable Mercedes A180, but it's not quite up to the class-leading standard of directly equivalent rivals like the BMW 118i or the Audi A3 1.4 TFSI. On the plus side, at least opting for an auto gearbox in a V40 T2 or T3 derivative doesn't affect your running cost returns one jot. For completion, we'll also give you the figures for the minority interest, petrol-powered, auto-only T5 flagship variant, 47.9 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 137 grams per kilometre of CO2 in two-wheel drive form, or 44.1 miles per gallon and 149 grams per kilometre if you go for the cross-country all-wheel drive version. What else might you need to consider? Residual values. Well, the public's taken well to the V40, and as such, these are climbing up towards Teutonic levels. Expect an entry-level D2 to come in at around 41 to 42% after 3 years of use. The D3 does slightly better at around 43%. Now, specify the desirable R-design trim level, and values will rise by around 4%. Petrol models don't do quite as well here as their diesel equivalents, hovering around the 35 to 38% range, although again, you can improve that if you go for the R design spec. As for insurance, we'll give you some starting points for groupings, and these can vary upwards depending on your exact choice of trim. Diesel drivers will be looking at ratings starting at Group 16 for the D2, from Group 21 for the D3, and the rating from 24 for the D4. For petrol people, the T3 is rated at Group 21, and at the top of the range, the all-wheel drive T5 cross-country variant is rated at Group 30. What else? Well, there's the usual unremarkable 3-year, 60,000-mile warranty that most rivals offer, which comes with 3 years of Volvo Assistance roadside breakdown cover for both the UK and Europe. Now, if you have your V40 serviced at a franchise dealer, this is automatically extended after 3 years. And on that subject, service intervals are every 18,000 miles. That's better than the intervals that applied to the old Ford engines, which were much shorter. Finally, a piece of really thoughtful cleverness. If you get your V40 specified with the Sensors Connect with high-performance sound system, your car will also come with the useful connected service booking feature. Via this, the vehicle will know when a service is due, and it will pre-book itself for a convenient service appointment at your local Volvo dealership. That's just one more thing that you don't have to worry about. Time then to take a fresh look at this Volvo V40. Not because of the more recent exterior changes, those are pretty minor. No, what matters here is what lies beneath the bonnet. With Drive E engine technology installed across the range, this Swedish contender can now properly meet the best of its premium rivals head on. This was the missing piece of the jigsaw with the original version of this car, a model based around fashionable styling, clothing some serious safety and a very assured piece of design. True, BMW and Mercedes alternatives in this sector are probably better choices if you really want to drive on your door handles, but they're set up in a way that Volvo thinks is better suited to Silverstone than Surbiton. Many will agree that this model does perhaps offer a better all-round handling compromise. Certainly, careful development of this car's dynamic, focus-inspired underpinnings has left us with a car an enthusiast might still enjoy. Of course, there are things we would change. The boot is rather small, and the steering could be more feelsome. Plus, it would be nice if Volvo's pricing enabled this model to undercut its more established German competitors by a greater extent. Otherwise, though, there's really not a lot wrong here. As a result, this efficient yet characterful, stylish yet sensible car ought to appeal far beyond Volvo's core customer base. It ought to, but it may not. BMW, Audi, Mercedes, even Alfa Romeo customers, they're all pretty parochial. They shouldn't be. A drive in one of these would blow away quite a few prejudices. Whoever would have thought it?